I've unconsciously been developing a philosophy of sorts while doing the early 20s circuit of discovering myself, trying new stuff, doing things on my own for the first time, and being the oldest I've ever been and the youngest I'll ever be again. I like to call it How to Get Silly, and I've broken it down into 5 simple steps. There's probably more specialized stuff about it, and I sometimes fail to practice what I preach. All the same, it may not be a forever philosophy, just the early 20s kind. Gender is a toy. Play with it. I figured this out when thinking about transitioning, but it is not transgender exclusive advice. When I realized I might be a guy, I also realized just how much I love dresses, makeup, and silly hats. This didn't change the fact that being a guy was something I wanted to pursue. It actually made it more exciting because if I was a guy, or even just sat outside of the gender matching the birth sex I was assigned, the rules that had been set out for me saying whether or not I could or should have makeup, pants, dresses, or colored hair were all fake. Anyone can break out of their assigned gender cubicle, and I think they should. Even those who've come to the conclusion that they are cisgender are not limited to the things they can do with gender. Even say a cisgender man can decide he wants to use all pronouns or wear a snood just because he's always wanted to try it. It won't make him less of a man, it just makes him a little funnier and maybe even more interesting than his peers. Fashion is a joke. Ignore outdated conventions, be an alt kid. Those reality shows where 2 fashionistas come and restyle someone's whole closet with expensive stuff they don't care about personally drive me up the damn wall. Sure, fashion is something with rules, but it's also a creative space, where experimentation breeds innovation. I figured this particular rule out when I was in my early teens. I was told to dress brighter and happier than I was feeling in hopes that it would fix my outlook on life. While I sometimes wish I'd listened a little better, I know now that I had to come to conclusions about how I dress on my own time. I'm still feeling experimental, but dressing silly is bringing me a surprising amount of joy. People walk up to me and tell me they like my maximalist jewelry and my embroidered Doc Martens, and it, in turn, gives me an opportunity to tell them how much I like their thrifted jackets and pins. There's an inherent connection in trying an alternative fashion style. It drives you to talk to strangers about what you like and meet the kind of people who dress like you. Fall in love with things. Folks say to love people and not things. But I find loving things leads to loving people, or at least being in community with the people who also love your thing. I used to think loving things was like worshipping a false idol. And I wasn't totally wrong, but when I realized the reason I get so fixated on stuff is because I have ADHD and not because of some moral failure, these idols turn to old friends, and I accepted the way I fall in love with life, no matter how silly its parts were. Plus, my obsessions have led me to some of the longest-standing friends I have to this day. Lifelong connection, even if your interests change, can all start with a single shared thing. Everyone is your buddy, until proven otherwise. Judging someone based on the way they look could be useful if you're trying to protect yourself, but if you're not in any danger, then there's no reason not to look at everyone waiting in the same line as you as another partner in the same crime. I learned this after I got my driver's license. When I was on the road by myself for the first time, everyone was my collaborator and we were all in the same group project, keeping each other alive. No matter the offensive bumper stickers or pretentious sports cars, we all had the same goal and we stuck to it. Even the ones displaying road rage didn't really want anyone dead, they just wanted to leave. And the best thing we could all do was stay in our lanes and take turns letting them get out of the way. If someone acts cruelly to you in the real world, that is when they have proven themselves not your buddy, and one should get out of the situation if they can, as opposed to staying and making enemies. You don't have to do any of the steps if they don't make you feel good. You just have to do what makes you feel alive and doesn't hurt anyone. Nowadays, people don't tell you to put yourself out there much. Not like they did when I was a little baby boy. This is a kindness, though, as while you should be vulnerable, weird, and silly, you should do it on your own time, or you may be taking things too seriously. This whole philosophy is about opening up your inner funny little guy, and if that little guy isn't feeling up to it, they're not going to be very funny. The idea of this way of doing things is not to make anyone better than they already are, like some philosophies. This is just to unlock the side of you that you don't usually let yourself see. Most of these steps are about self-expression, or letting yourself love the world around you, but nothing will really change if you decide to try these steps. They just might make some people think you're a bit silly, and the point here is to embrace that.